All right.
No eyesores on the table.
We're good to go. All right. Ready? All right. This is Inside with Outsiders. My name is Jeremy Asgari, and today we have someone that is a legend. I've known about this guy since I was a youngster. Crazy Legs from the Rocksteady crew. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. So, I got to be honest. I remember a friend of ours, we grew up together, me and Chris, and a friend of ours who went to high school with us was the type of girl that was like out in the clubs, New York City clubs, when she was like a teenager, 15 years old, and she was a dancer. She could
She had
dance.
to be good.
And she used to tell me stories about this guy named Crazy Legs that was dancing. I was like, wow, this guy Crazy Legs sounds crazy. And then I saw like, was it Wild Style or?
It depends on what year. There's Beat Street, Wild Style, Style Wars, Flashdance.
All that. I mean, for those of you who don't know, these are like iconic New York hip hop movies and the birth of the whole culture. Mm-hmm. And so I know you in that regard. I've gotten to know you a little better through, you know,
the decades.
But also, like, I think I remember the first time I saw you or met you was when Crowbar existed, and it was you were friends with the event director there, right? What was her name?
Yeah, the woman.
Away?
God, I can't think of her name right now.
Great
woman.
Yeah, she
ended up at Hammerstein Ballroom after.
Yeah, and she passed away. She passed away.
I didn't know that.
Like, maybe 10 years ago, something like that.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But I remember her coming. It was an opening week, and then she was friends with you. Like, how is this lady friends with?
You were promoing for them.
Yeah,
I remember.
I was in the marketing department too. So it was a long time ago. And then we connected through like Bobito and those guys. Mm-hmm. But we have a visitor. Oh, who's that? That's not for us.
You never know who's gonna show up. Oh, it's my ex.
Yeah. But what I really want to know is the same thing I tell everyone when we're interviewing them. This is like to see the events that took place in your life that brought you to where you are now. Mm-hmm. I want to know like the real Crazy Legs, you know? Uh-huh. So I start off every interview asking like, where are you from?
Boogie Down Bronx. Born and raised in the Bronx. I did live in Manhattan for a few years during my formative years as well. Yeah. But I'm always a Bronx boy because that's where I started dancing, and that's where my family's from.
What part of the Bronx?
Well, we were poor, so I lived everywhere.
Okay.
There was talk about evictions, man. It's the Puerto Rican experience in the Bronx.
And what year was this? What years?
Man, I was born in '66. I lived in the Bronx till '79, then moved back to the Bronx in '82.
Yeah, it was crazy. You said you're born in '66. You look so young.
Thank you.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
Yeah. I hope if I let my hair grow, my grays are as distinguished as yours. You know?
You know, if that's a compliment I get, I'll take
Absolutely,
it. I'm just happy to have it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man. You can play a vampire.
I don't know about that kind of compliment.
No, what was the guy's name who had the beauty mark?
I'll take George Clooney. That's what I'll take.
George Hamilton.
They got some...
Don't worry, he was a heartthrob for the ladies. You're in good company,
I appreciate that.
It's all good. It's a compliment, bro.
I appreciate you. So growing up in I guess in the 70s, right?
Yep.
In the Bronx. What was life like? What were you doing? When did you find your passion of dancing?
I went to a jam in 1977 on Crotona and 180th Street. It was a schoolyard, and I had already known about breaking, but I didn't know the full context of what it really was with music and all the surrounding elements, because there was no such thing as the title hip-hop culture.
Right.
So when I first saw it, I just fell in love with it. And me being a shy kid, it was the first time I kind of did something outwardly creative. I was pretty much bummy, had corny ass clothes those days. We were poor, so it was, but I actually tried to dance at the age of 10 and a half, 11, and I just fell in love with the scene. I saw B-boys, B-girls, DJs, and I don't remember if there were any MCs yet, but I knew about MCs already. I had heard about Cold Crush Brothers and Fantastic Five. And my cousin was part of a crew called Rockwell Association, and he tried to get me down with that crew as I started learning. They said I was too young. Meanwhile, he was only a year older than me.
Right.
So Yeah, I just became immersed in it. I became instantly like a Cold Crush Brothers fan, and I just wanted to do everything that I was learning about in the streets, from graffiti. I
Yeah.
wanted, my brothers were DJs, so I would sneak on their turntables when they weren't home, and until they figured me out, and then they started rewiring shit, so I couldn't play the music.
Right. When you say you started dancing, then were you dancing like not just break dancing, but did you dance like you're Puerto Rican of Puerto Rican culture? So were you dancing salsa or whatever before that? Like with your family?
No. I was the only things that I was into was baseball and boxing. So I around 10, 11 years old, I was supposed to go into the Junior Olympics.
For what sport?
Boxing.
Really? You were boxing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So boxing's probably my first love. Boxing and baseball started at the same time for me. But being that we didn't have the finances for it, you're looking at like a $14 registration fee, $14 registration fee. And back then, if you're a single parent raising 6 kids, there's no way I could ask my mother for that kind of money.
Right.
So I watched everyone else go to the Junior Olympics, and I had to stay behind.
And you said 6 kids. Are you the youngest of the 6? Or middle?
I'm fourth.
Fourth? Okay.
Yeah.
And so did you give up on your boxing dreams there?
I always stayed, developing the craft, as a hobby. But once I fell in love with breaking, that's something. It doesn't cost you money. It costs you a pair of sneakers, and you do mess up your clothes.
Right. Yeah.
Especially if back then there was no such thing as dancing on cardboard or anything like that.
This is before cardboard.
Yeah. So we would practice in parks underneath the swings, meaning like, throw the swings around the pole and then practice on the black rubber mat, which would get you all dirty and stuff like that. And battling on, back then, if you battled anywhere. Oh, you want to battle? Let's go right now. If you're on concrete, it's going to happen.
How would that look? Like
a lot of blood.
No, I'm saying not to.
No, I'm dead ass though. But
I can imagine.
that's the thing.
So I, the first dancer that I met and I was friends with, rest in peace, Jesus Headspins.
Oh yeah.
A friend of mine.
He used to roll with Dynamic.
I guess I don't know the crew, but he was like known for. He had a really unique style, but he also always do head spins. I remember at a certain time he would stop.
He did head spins even when he was doing house stands.
Yeah, exactly, he did. Man, stuff he would do was incredible. But I remember him doing so many head spins that he had a bald spot on his head.
Yeah,
and he'd always like his clothes were always like a little beat up from doing the dancing, but rest in peace. Jesus.
Well, the one thing is that I used to do head spins, but like by the time the 80s came around, you're putting more weight on. I'm not heavy, but I'm not a little kid.
Right.
I was definitely in shape, but when you start seeing other people get bald spots, I was like, nah, I'm good with the head spins.
Yeah, how did you actually get better, get great, become like? Well, first of all, how'd you get your name?
Well, I got my name after I started getting better. Junior high school 52 on Academy Street in Inwood. This is my short stint in Manhattan. And a girl named Marlene Rosario was walking down the aisle of the auditorium after school with she was the captain of the cheerleaders. So she's with the baddest girls in school.
I'm envisioning like this movie scene, right? A teenage high school movie scene. Okay.
She's baddest girl in the school, and she saw me dancing. She was like, "Ooh, he got some crazy legs," and the girls on the cheerleading squad all started calling me Crazy Legs, and eventually, my first year in junior high, there was a play, Grease.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a mix of like, remember the group Sha-Na-Na that used to be on, well, there was a group called Sha-Na-Na that was like on a television show, but it was kind of like old school rock style. And they basically, we were playing Sha-Na-Na, we performed the song Hand Jive, but in the song Hand Jive, there's a break part So they told me, we want you to break here.
Really?
And this is when I had already developed what's called like the backspin, the windmill, and all that stuff.
These
And
are like also gymnastic moves too.
no, I was never into
I'm saying, but
gymnastics.
the windmill is kind of like
No, that was my move. I made that up by accident in the Bronx, and I was trying to do one move, and I accidentally went into a spin on my back because I was trying to protect my feet from hitting the wall in the small hallway. So when I
see.
cause
I'm thinking of your hand.
centrifugal
Yeah.
force with my
Yes.
legs, it's after I let my hand go, I balled up and it just.
Yeah.
And my cousin was like, "Oh shit, do that again." I was like, "Do what?" Like I'm thinking, I'm just trying to protect myself.
Right.
And yeah, so that's how that came about. And
So you
So
you made that move.
yeah, definitely.
That's the
And the windmill.
legendary breaking move.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
That's the DNA to power moves. But so we did the play, and when I moved to Manhattan at that time, there weren't many b-boys that were very good. It was a Bronx thing, so it was still making its way to the outer boroughs. But in '79, it was actually dying.
B-boy was.
Yeah,
B-boy.
breaking was
Really?
dying. And so when I did that show, that's when the whole audience just blew up.
Yeah.
Like spinning on my back. They had never seen it.
Yeah.
And then the whole school started calling me Crazy Legs.
Yeah.
Eventually I got a shirt, black shirt, red letters, and put Crazy Legs on it. And I remember going on the one train at Dykeman one day. And I get on the train, I'm wearing the shirt, I'm walking down the train, and I start thinking to myself, it says Crazy Legs on my shirt. They're gonna think there's something wrong with me. Like people are reading Crazy Legs, and they're probably thinking like, like, is there something wrong with it? Like, I don't see a limp or anything. Yeah. So that was.
Did they know? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was how I got my name.
And how did you? I was mistaken. I actually thought you were a founder of the Rocksteady crew.
Nope.
But how did you get involved with the Rocksteady crew?
A Rocksteady crew was a crew that myself and my cousin Lenny Len wanted to be in. We used to hang out with some of the guys from Rocksteady. My cousin Lenny was in Rockwell Association. I was in a crew called the Bronx Boys. And when Jimmy D and Jimmy Lee were members of the Bronx Boys, but they splintered off and formed Rocksteady crew. They started somewhere around 77. I got into Rocksteady in 79 with my cousin. We battled Jimmy D and Jimmy Lee as our like rite of passage, and to see where our skills were. And it wasn't that we went there and were the best, but our development over time, with a short amount of time, was really good. And we lost the battle, but because of our progress and potential, they put us in Rocksteady crew.
Gotcha. And how old were you around this time?
13?
Oh wow, really?
12, 13?
How'd you get discovered to be in these, like, some of them movies, some of them are more documentary style, but how'd you get started with those?
After we started performing in the downtown scene in New York.
That's such like the birthplace of so many, pop culture icons.
Yeah, I think the first couple of people that really put us on to anything was a fashion illustrator who passed away by the name of Antonio Lopez. He worked with Karl Lagerfeld for many years. He worked with Andy Warhol. He helped to start the careers of Tukey Smith, Jerry Hall, Grace Jones. We actually did a show. He got us to perform at Studio 54 in like January of '82 for his book release party called Antonio's Girls. But prior to that, Henry Chalfant, who produced the film Style Wars and I guess co-produced the book Subway Art with Martha Cooper. He was introduced to us by one of the guys in Rocksteady called Take One, Dominican cat from Washington Heights, who became a really good friend. And he, Henry Chalfant was trying to find out like about this thing he heard about. and Take One was like, yo, I know the best guys. So he brought Frosty Freeze and myself down, and we did a little demo down by what is it? Oh God, down by Canal Street. He had his studio there, and we did a quick demo. And next thing you know, we're in what was considered the first curated show that featured breaking, graffiti, DJing, and MCing. So there was no such thing as the term hip hop yet. So he that show was actually called. It was the first time a show was called Graffiti Rock. Some people think of a show that came out on TV a couple of years later called Graffiti Rock, but two different things.
Right. Okay. Well, why are you going through this experience in your teenage years? What did you think? Did you have any aspirations to, like, as far as your career goes, professionally? Not, I mean, whether it be dancing or something else.
Nah, man.
Did you have any jobs at the time?
Nah.
No?
Jobs. We did jobs.
Yeah. Tell us about those jobs. What did you do?
That's for the documentary.
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations are up, but those are for the documentary. We are working on the documentary.
Are you? Awesome.
So you're actually being 100% transparent. I'm not doing these kinds of interviews.
Really?
Yeah, it's literally just for you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's anything that I'm asking that obviously that you want to see for the documentary, like you just did, let me know.
Yeah.
So you were doing your thing to make money, how you were doing it, and then did you see this being something that would take off and make you a legend?
No, we didn't have any aspirations about being performers or anything like that. We were some ghetto bastards who were given opportunities that we didn't know how to appreciate and didn't know how to properly take advantage of. Because we do come from a background of lights on Broadway, silver screen, being things that weren't attainable in our eyes. If you look at images of the Bronx, anyone just Googles like Bronx 70s, and it's a shit show. It looks really. It looks like a war zone.
I saw I went to photography stuff for the 50 years of hip hop thing, and it shows photos of LES and the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like there was missiles that dropped on the Bronx.
And I went to LES back then. It was nowhere near what the Bronx was going through, because in the Bronx you had a situation where there was a movement of a lot of Jewish landlords who did not want anything to do with the blacks and Latinos who were moving into the buildings that they own. So they were doing things like paying outlaw gang members to and drug addicts to burn down buildings so that they could collect and be done.
Yeah.
So by the time they were gone, back then, usually when there's a fire, they demo the building.
Right.
And so that it ended up looking like a lot of that. Sometimes our playgrounds or where we learned how to do gymnastics was on a disgusting mattress on rubble from a building that was taken down.
There's photos from that as well in there.
Yeah, that's 100% real.
And this is around the same time as...
It's 70s.
Okay, so this is before the crack epidemic.
Oh, yeah, crack. Yeah. There was no such thing as crack. There was more like heroin, people sniffing glue, black beauties.
Black beauties, what's that?
I think they were like uppers.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing? Dust, PCP, and acid, yeah. Yeah, those are the drugs of choice back then.
Yeah. So you're growing up in this environment. Like, when did you see the potential of this future of these bright lights is attainable?
I never recognized that until it was all over. And it was time to, like, let's say the 90s. In the 90s, by that point, people had made other career choices within Rocksteady. And we weren't, some of us lived double lives. And
explain the double lives. Oh, you can't.
Doing street shit.
Okay, yeah.
Street shit, And people died as a result of that. so when my best friend Buck Four, who was murdered and executed, when he passed away, I had already in him, Kuriaki, and multiple other people who were contributors to the culture in a way that was impactful, but because we were living in times of less access to media, or media having access to us, those people didn't get the longevity of the shine and recognition for their contributions, and we also didn't know that we were contributing to an industry.
Right.
We didn't even consider ourselves industry because you go on the road and then you come back and you only made like $500 on like a 2-week tour.
Yeah.
It's time to stick somebody up.
All right. How long was this the run where it was popular, where you guys were like on top of the world in a sense when it came to breakdancing?
So we started performing in '81. I would say 4 or 5 years. And then I went back to school, went to Hunter College.
Oh, you went to Hunter?
Yeah. I was in there when me and Vin Diesel used to go not pick up, but we used to go try to kick it to the girls in the lunchroom when they would be playing. Yeah, they would be playing spades.
Yeah. Oh, word to Hunter? So you went to Hunter? That's crazy. What'd you study at Hunter?
It was communications.
Me too.
And business.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I didn't finish.
Okay.
But what was it? Oh, so during that time, worked regular jobs downtown or at a gym.
What kind of regular jobs?
Man, I worked at the American Stock Exchange processing options and buys. I also worked at the New York Insurance Company.
When you're working these places, does anyone recognize you from the B-boy world?
Sometimes. Yeah. And, the thing is, because we were on shows like David Letterman Show and and flash dance and all that stuff. Yeah, there was always that.
Right.
So by the time 1991 comes around, multiple people have died, and I was just, somebody told me, hey, remember that hip hop can be used as a tool.
Yeah.
You use hip hop as a tool to make things happen. To help people, to teach people, and to give people an option as a way out.
Right.
Which we did, I would say by default culturally, was now being used in a way of like, okay, this is my tool. I could go do some volunteer work and try to steer some young people in the worst part of New York, which was at that time Hunts Point, and create a program. So I reached out to the Point Community Development Corporation. They had started, I don't know if I reached out to them or they reached out to me, but I started volunteering there 3 days a week for 3 years and started throwing events there. That's how I started throwing events. Actually, I started throwing events before that, but I started throwing events more consistently. And we found I found myself in a position of being able to help the organization as well as the kids, and I would have an opportunity through my relationship to take the kids to like a basketball game at the Garden, and next thing you know, we got hooked up with like the ESPN suite, and I got all these little Bronx kids up in there wilding, and we also helped, took them to the circus. But we're talking about kids who were they lived in that real hardcore environment. So even riding in the van to take them back and forth, next thing you know, there's a snap fight, and then someone says something about their mother, and then there's a fight, and I'm like, you guys better cut this shit out right now. I'm gonna kick one of your asses in here. So they're throwing blows in the back seat.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get them home safe. And there was situations like that, but that was probably like the beginning of like Rocksteady crew coming back and having more prominence again, and doing things, throwing Rocksteady anniversary, throwing events.
What was the timeline like from the time like Rocksteady when everyone kind of went the separate ways in a way from the end of the popularity of breakdancing to then the resurgence with more of a community aspect?
I would say that happened from sometime probably late 85 to 89, 90, because a friend of mine at the time may have been 90, 89, no, 89. He goes, yo, Legs, Rocksteady for the 90s. What's up?
Right.
I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. Nah, I'm not doing that shit again. This is crazy because there was a lot of drama on that tour and just the street lives that we lived. It was just the amount of bullets that we dodged and the amount of people that died and you know, performing and then living in the streets and doing fucked up shit. It was like I wanted nothing to do with it. And then, you know, I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to go for it. And me and my boy Q Unique, was in a group called the Arsonists back in the days. I don't know if you remember them.
I don't. It sounds familiar.
It used to be like Arsonists, Nonfiction, and all them dudes. Him and I, at that point, he was the first person I recruited. And we would go to clubs in maybe 1990. And we'd be hyped just to wait for the song South Bronx to play. Because we knew that once that song would play, we would scream, the real Rocksteady taking out these toys. Just be like, yeah, motherfuckers, we here.
Yeah.
We here. So that was pretty much the beginning of us making a comeback.
What did that comeback look like? Was it still like, it wasn't battling at the time, it was more the community efforts? Or?
Well, no, we found people to battle because there were still pockets of people who were still dancing, but no one had the notoriety or the name or relationships with new publications that were coming out. Or, you know, a lot of these publications didn't know of like a Dynamic Rockers, or maybe knew of New York City Breakers, but couldn't tell you who was who or a name in any of those crews. And they weren't necessarily active either. So I said to myself, well, I know our name has weight.
Yeah.
So I started developing relationships with either photographers or editors or publishers of like The Source magazine, Word Up magazine, Hype magazine. I can't even remember.
Classic hip hop publications.
Yeah. So I started telling them what I was doing. And they, you know, a lot of those people grew up on Rocksteady, so they immediately were like, oh, wow, let's do a story on them. Yeah. And then I started throwing events. They started covering the events. And then, you know, I would say during the time that new music seminar was going on, I felt like, okay, cool. I want to do an event. So I partnered up with Shauna Hoods and Christina Varan. And we created an event called Straight from the Heart. And that event we did at Rocksteady Park as a way to recognize members of Rocksteady who had passed away. So whether it be Shywin 47, Dondi, Buck Fork, Udiaki, Rashon, whoever had passed away at that time, and celebrate them. But also, let's bring the Park Jam back, and also let's take advantage of this crowd that's going to be in New York City right now, because we know they're going for this industry event, but let's give them some real hip hop. So I brought back what was the Park Jam, but on a larger scale and with the industry included. So it worked out really great because, number one, no one had ever done a Park Jam with industry taken into consideration. It was almost like if there was a hip hop festival, we did the first one.
Okay.
You know, even like the original Rock the Bells tour came to Rocksteady anniversaries and decided that, from what I heard, they could deny it now, but I heard this back in the days, because one of them told my boys, yeah, they were at Rocksteady anniversary, and then they started doing Rock the Bells. And it was, we saw the similarities of like,
even the name sounds similar.
Biters.
Yeah.
And of course, this had nothing to do with LL Cool J or that camp, you know, so I don't want people to get confused. Yeah. So it's a totally different group of people. And so when New Music Seminar stopped, a year or two later, that crowd became interested in still coming to New York now for the Rocksteady anniversary. So we did Straight from the Heart, and then the following year turned it into Rocksteady anniversary.
And was this your full-time gig at the point, or are you still doing the side work?
We were already moving around.
Like you got, you
I was throwing events on a regular basis. I was, yeah, that's it. We were getting invited to like places like Germany, Japan, France, because they still had scenes out there for hip hop.
Yep.
They didn't give up on hip hop as much at the time when it comes to all-encompassing kinds of parties.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't give up the way the States did.
Right.
So we started getting invited out to these places and, you know, figured out, okay, well, let's make our own merch. You know, I started making my own merch. I also got to a point in I would say, mid-90s, maybe like 92, 93, I was thinking like to myself, wow, you know what? There has to be a way that we can get that random dude in like Billings, Montana to say, oh, wow, breaking is still going on. I'm going to keep practicing. So I started something called Bootleg Betty. And Bootleg Betty was my way of doing what the DJ did with mixtapes, but creating breaking videos with excerpts of old performances, practice sessions, and then circulate those. I had invested I took like 5 G's and turned that into 60 real quick.
Oof.
Yeah. And then that became like the primary way, and that's not to say that people had never made a video before, but no one had ever made a video for the sake of mass production and making sure that it gets to all the hip hop shops that were popping up at the time.
Right.
So I started becoming that person who was known for handling the business and getting shit done, but at the same time making sure that that business served as an inspiration for those people who are like, all right, I want to dance, but am I going to be the only one?
Right, yeah.
Or inspiring young people, because the one thing with breaking is that, or popping and locking, you do that in front of a bunch of young kids, young children, they're going to emulate you immediately. So it's always infectious. It's probably like graffiti. I would, you know, it's funny, like graffiti and breaking are probably the two elements of hip hop that could sustain themselves without media. We will exist whether there's money or not, because we're more about the culture than the people who say they're doing it for the culture.
My brother's a graffiti artist. I mean, he was part of a bunch of crews.
Yeah.
He still writes, but
and it's two elements that you can't fake.
Yeah.
You can't fake flavor, and you can't fake technique. I mean, you know, a rapper can go there and perform over their tracks.
Yeah.
A DJ can make himself look like he's DJing, and meanwhile you realize, oh wow, the lights aren't on his deck.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're elements that it's like you got to show up and show out.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what I really also want to know and touch on with your story is, while this resurgence is happening, while you're kind of bringing the culture back to the forefront, what was your life like then? Like,
I was all right. So, I had stopped going to college because I had to pay bills, and I didn't have the kind of support system that a person would have living in suburbia. And I know some people think they have it hard putting kids through college and all this other stuff. But for us, that's not even an option. Right. You have a hard time doing it where it's not an option for us.
Right.
So I didn't have that kind of support, and I just had to work and pay bills. So I started doing temp work, and then eventually I worked for Jack LaLanne.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, up in 225th and Broadway, or 231st and Broadway.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Whatever, up there, up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
and so I started working there, teaching aerobics. I used to train people. I used to do sales. I became one of the, for my position, one of the top sellers of memberships. But eventually, I didn't really like that because that company, which was run by Bally's, was also teaching us patterns of getting people to say yes during an interview, so that by the time it's time to close a deal, they've been conditioned in this conversation to keep saying yes, yes,
Right,
yes, yes, yes. You trigger them to say yes, and you get them to put the most money down on the best membership, when a lot of us knew that those memberships would default in a month.
Yeah.
So a lot of people in the company and my managers and supervisors would get pissed off at me because they would be like limited, gold, platinum, or some shit like that. They had 3 or 4 tiers of memberships. I was selling, they called me the king of the limiteds.
Right.
But being king of the limiteds also meant that less default.
Yeah.
You had all these other people who were
Upselling.
creating these contracts, upselling, and canceling memberships 30 days later.
So how long were you doing these before you reached a point where you didn't need to work these jobs anymore and worked back on Rocksteady and as a brand yourself?
I did that from 87 through 89. And then one of my close friends was hanging out with him one day, and I told him, hey, had a situation. I'm really pissed. I just left my job because I almost had beef at the gym, and I told Pete, I was doing protocol, like, hey, call the cops because there's going to be a situation in here, and it's a lot of them, and there's only one of me, and obviously no one here has my back. And it was just some unruly people in the gym. I had to ask them to chill. And when I sent somebody to go call the police, somebody above me said, don't do it. So I'm like, wait a second. Now I got to be worried about going out here and possibly getting shot,
right,
or some shit like that, because there was wild dudes from the streets, and I'm thinking, like, I don't want to be here anymore. This company almost let me die.
Yeah.
And so I told my boy that story, and he was moving weight in the streets. He's like, yo, man, don't even worry about it, man. I got your back, man. Just, help you get back on your feet. And yeah, that led to me being involved in quite a few different things that I'm not proud of,
Right. How long?
And that's where the double life starts.
Right. How long were you living this double life, and what was the exit from the double life?
Oh, man, I think the double life aspect, I would say by the time, maybe early 1997.
What was the light at the end of the tunnel?
Actually, no. Oh, shit. Yeah, 97, because I was still mentally transitioning, and when you do things in the street and you have all these secrets in your head that you got to die with, it makes you move a certain way. It becomes kind of like your puppet master, and you kind of have like maybe aggression or just bad behavior that you do, but you don't realize it's because of unresolved issues. And anyway, I would say 1997, I knew my son was going to be born. I almost got sucked into something because of some old beef. And my boy Sebastian Serrano, he was there with me when this situation went down. And, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. They almost got me, and we go to my crib, and we go up on the roof to just figure out, like, were we followed?
Yeah.
Is anyone trying to creep up on us? Are we gonna be ran up on? They're gonna start shooting at the crib, and my boy Sab was just like, your legs, because at that time I had access to things that would be needed, but would take me, to respond.
Yeah.
And I chose not to do that.
Right.
Well, Sab was like, your legs, you need to learn when to take a loss. Because if you go further in this moment, probably pretty much done,
Right.
you know, and I had to make that choice to put my pride aside and not respond, and yeah, just keep the focus on using my art, you know, and create a better situation. And you figure that was probably like 90. Wow, I don't even know. It's
Late
kind of a
90s?
blur right now. Yeah, when I really made the decision, and I just was like, all right, I need to take myself out of this environment because I know too many people, and a lot of people know me, know my associations, and I got tired of people coming up to me like, yo, I know you got people who could get me a brick. I know you can give me a few bricks if just introduce me, or I know you can get some steel for me.
Right.
And I got tired of being asked those things, so I happily moved out of the Bronx.
Where'd you move to?
I still don't talk. I don't really talk about stuff like that where I live now.
Yeah. No, not where you. Oh, so you moved to where you are. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. So
I don't know if you moved to like another city, another like Miami or whatever. No, okay.
No, it's still a
in the
metropolitan
area.
But I knew that I had to take myself out of that environment. You know, there were times that I'm walking around with a bulletproof vest, and when you walk around with a bulletproof vest and you're doing things on the low, you put yourself in more danger because you forget that you could take one to the head.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
a vest ain't gonna protect your head.
Yeah. This is interesting. I didn't know this. I didn't know, like, obviously I knew this.
I'm from the Bronx. We don't talk. We don't talk about our
course.
shit, man. Statute of limitations and all that stuff. You know, notice I haven't said any names.
Of course.
You know, and those who know, and those who want to know shouldn't ask. You know.
Yeah.
And
I won't ask. I promise.
No, but I mean names and
I know
stuff
what you're
like
saying,
that.
Yeah.
And so, but that decision led to me really honing in on utilizing hip hop as a tool to help people.
And
you know,
is that when I believe you had a Rocksteady school or a dance school?
No, I used to teach at the Point. It was never a school. I just volunteered there in the Bronx, South Bronx, for 3 years, and yeah, just helped to revive breaking again.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of people around the world be like, "Oh, well, we were still doing it here and here and here." I'm like, okay, but what was your impact globally?
Right.
And nobody was getting, I would say, international press. And, you know, in this case, international press within the entertainment industry is absolutely important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I had access to all of that. I knew how to work that. And that's what eventually led to me and all of us, like, reviving Rocksteady Crew, putting new members down, figuring out the new lane, doing off-Broadway shows, off-Broadway, touring, and I guess continuing the legacy.
So you turned that into a whole. You revive the culture. The brand is yours thanks to the hard work you put in, your connections and so on. Mm-hmm. It's your full time. This is your livelihood, right?
Yeah.
And
well, yeah. At that point, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, no.
not now anymore.
No.
Oh, the festival is your thing.
Well,
now, right?
my festival, it has been a labor of love. Up and I would say, a few times we've had, you know, even with the Rocksteady anniversary to the festival, not every year was profitable. But I'm also that kind of person who I don't put it out there like, oh man, took an L on this one, took an L.
I mean, you know, what's funny is like
there's no I have no way to complain up.
Right, but at the same time, sometimes I wish, and sometimes I think I've taken L's as well. Everyone has who's an entrepreneur. It'd be nice to hear somebody say, you know, that they took L. Makes you understand, like, you're not the only one that's taking the L's. It's a lot of pride that you got to swallow in order to say that.
Yeah.
But everyone, as an entrepreneur, you know everyone has taken L, because if you're not taking L's, you're not learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And to complain publicly about the L's that I've taken, to me, is a distraction from the great times that people had and were able to walk away and say, like, wow, that was culture, that was hip hop. Yeah. And even like throwing events, I'm sure you can appreciate this. depending upon the kind of event you're throwing, you don't always get to experience a good time because your mind is focused on the door, security, the box
You just
office,
see behind the
insurance,
curtain.
talent, all this other stuff. And I always lived off of people's stories after my events. Like,
Right.
you know, but I'll tell you one thing that's funny. When you throw events and you're doing it on a resort and you have to be up earlier than everyone else for the next event the next day, and you see all these walk of shames happening, walking out of rooms.
Yeah.
Y'all know who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen being the event producer. I'm not a big drinker, but I've seen. You see all that stuff from a sober eye. It's just interesting to see.
Yeah.
Anything behind the curtain.
And then
like
they walk with their head, oh shit,
Yeah.
busted. Like, I saw what room you came out of.
Yeah. You see behind. You see what really happens, and that's kind of like, one, maybe you can't enjoy the event as much because you're seeing,
Right.
but you see everything that's happening.
But I never snitch.
Right.
Never ever snitch, and that comes from like my Bronx street stuff. Never snitch.
So what is it what is it that has you making your living now, and what is your focused project at the moment?
I have a few projects going on. We are working on a documentary. Hopefully we start filming within the next month or so. PRS Fest, which is happening August 31st in Paterson, New Jersey at the Hinchcliffe Stadium. And involved with a tech deal called Moti, M-O-T-I. Moti is a professional app. Let's just say it's a super app. If you were to combine Zoom with Cash App and Zelle and Instagram and all that with a payment platform for in-call money transfers with a ledger and a calendar to schedule
Sounds
your
like a
calendar.
lot.
Yeah, so if you were a lawyer and I needed your services, I could look at your calendar, I could see what's available, book you. I already know your rate.
Right.
If I feel like I can't afford you, I can send you on the back channel. Hey, I can't afford $250 an hour. Can we do $200?
Right.
And you can be like, all right, fine. But only you and I know that. And no one can steal your clientele. No one knows your clientele but you.
Right.
Which is cool. And then it's a 5K double screen video. We're going to be we're 1-to-1, but we're going 1-to-many. We're completing our seed round right now. And we have an amazing law firm. We have Orrick Harrington, which is one of the top 2 law firms for tech in the world. And a couple of other people who are on board now and come from really high-level positions within the tech space.
Yeah.
And that's a deal that it's one of those deals that a person like myself, being from where I'm from, we normally don't get invited into. And the deal is so amazing. It's one of those deals or one of those ventures that you're like, oh wow, when this all comes to fruition, I never have to work again for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal anyway, but it's, and I say it with that kind of confidence because it's been vetted by tier 1 people in the game.
Yeah.
So
it's incredible that you've used your platform as a dancer to then create this Rocksteady crew, to then create this network and press network and media network, to then, just keep on elevating and using your resource for it.
I'm using resources that I never tapped into before.
Right.
I made this decision at such a late age to just be like, you know what, all right, I'm going all in. I'm reaching out to everybody.
Yeah.
And we're going to make some shit happen on all these projects that I'm working on.
Yeah.
VCs, everything. VCs, sponsors, just utilizing everything. And then, it's looking really, really good.
Well, touching on the roots of breakdancing, I think, is this year the first year that's in the Olympics, breakdancing?
Yeah, it's going to the Olympics. And that's cool, but unfortunately, it wasn't selected by the United States to be in the 2028 Olympics. So, to me, it's like, wow, we haven't even gotten there,
and
it's already canceled.
Wow.
And, yeah, so that's a little disturbing. But I also know that I don't know what the lane is for people who are going into it anyway for a lane of success out of it.
Right.
That's usually a tough one for a lot of Olympians in any sport or
Like a lane of success once they're done with it, what they do next.
yeah, because
I mean,
you're gonna have top tier talent, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else but the three are gonna get are not getting gold,
Right.
but are probably just as good. You could have a bad day by just slipping on your sweat, and you
Right.
could be better than the person that won. But that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
I don't think the Olympics really. I don't know if they have a program. I don't want to assume that they do or they don't. But I don't know what there is in terms of helping these dancers after that.
I mean, I think that's also a question for all athletes, for other
Yeah.
industries but certain industries, certain sports have a better exit program for these people.
I could only hope that there is a program created, ambassadorship program, as well as educational program, as well as I hope they have a good judging system.
Yeah.
But a system that really respects the culture and art and history of it. But being that I think the biggest problem right now is that it hasn't happened, and where it comes from, in our own backyard, the United States already said no.
Yeah.
This is our thing, and our own country already said no.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Let's. I know you talked about Puerto Rocksteady.
Yep.
That's like your baby. I know we spoke about that with Outsiders when we were doing it in Puerto Rico. For sure, always falls in the same time that I'm in with our homegirl Natalie in Sardinia for that trip. But how did that start? And what I know that's a big project.
Yeah. So I started doing Rocksteady Anniversary, like I said earlier, in early '90s, and by the time we got to the 35th anniversary, we did it in Central Park as part of Summer Stage. We had an amazing Juice Crew reunion there on that day, so it was pretty dope. MC Light, a whole bunch of people. But I was already kind of like not enthusiastic about doing events anymore because I started to see these losses, and I also started to see that a lot of I would say Summer Stage is great, but Summer Stage isn't I would say it isn't the lane for a promoter to make money. Summer Stage makes money for Summer Stage.
Yeah.
They're willing to pay the artist, and that's all great. But the promoter, whose concept it is, we don't really get anything.
Yeah, I can see.
So we moved it to. We started doing things in. Well, before that, we were already doing things in Lincoln Park, New Jersey. We had moved it out. But I was just fed up with that, and I needed new energy. So I wanted the event to have more meaning. So I started in 2013 doing Puerto Rocksteady as a way to pretty much generate or have an impact on economic development in Puerto Rico. And then it turned into a thing where I started making donations. Whenever there was money made, I made a donation, whether it be the Boys Club or supporting farming, initiatives like that. And, did that there for 9 years. Last year, we did the event over here as a way of countering the narrative of people overlooking the contributions of Latinos within hip hop. So we did something, thanks to my boy Jeffrey Sanchez. He set us up with Dumbo House, and we did something called Elementos as part of PRS Fest, where we would document the stories of legends and pioneers who were Latino, and create this recording so that we could, number one, use it for a documentary. Number two, make sure that we get those tapes will eventually be put into the Cornell Hip Hop Collection.
I didn't know there was a Cornell Hip Hop Collection. That's amazing.
Cornell has an amazing hip hop collection within their rare and manuscripts library. So I felt like, okay, well, we could either complain or we could be proactive. and no one tells our story better than us.
Yeah.
So I gathered a whole bunch of people who are Latino or half Latino, and because there were a lot of people who are Black and Latino, and because we never really had to talk about that in the 70s, it's like either you're dope or you're not.
Right.
Nobody gave a shit in the hood. We all got arrested by the same police, got into the fights with each other. We had each other's backs or didn't have each other's backs, but we were all the same kind of community. So we never looked at it as like a Black or Latino thing until, I would say, when the media really got a hold of it as a recording industry, that's when the division really came. Because the record companies didn't know what to do with a Puerto Rican rapper.
Right.
Or they didn't know what to do with breaking anymore.
Right.
So there was a divide, and it was just being pushed out there as strictly Black culture, which, at the end of the day, yes, predominantly. But, when you're talking about someone like Grand Mixer DXT now, he's the first person to win a Grammy in hip hop because of his work on the song Rocket by Herbie Hancock. And he did the scratching on that, and he did not know until like 4 years ago that he was half Puerto Rican. So there's contributions. There's a lot of contributions there, but we never felt the need or took the time to document it, and we're always, a lot of times we're treated as Latinos in hip hop. No. We're hip hop.
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah.
I don't like we didn't make up the term Latinos in hip hop. That came from media.
Right.
So that's where the division really started, with media and record companies.
Okay. I never thought about that.
Because if you look at original interviews from back in the days, they talk about Black and Puerto Rican, Black and Latino. They always mention that it was both of us.
Right. Yeah, that's something I never thought of, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you think about the Bronx, it wasn't one or the other; it was all inclusive.
It was the hood.
Yeah,
it's the hood. That's it.
Are we getting some a letter question now? Let's just know about you. When you're not working, we're not trying to spread the message, awareness of Puerto Rico, breakdancing, Rocksteady. What do you do for fun?
Oh man, what do I do for fun these days? Honestly, I'm very happy with being in Puerto Rico on a hammock or by the beach. I
look back because his family has a farm in Puerto Rico. He's Puerto Rican.
Yeah,
half Puerto Rican. So I hear about it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like being at my house, and if I have to work, it's beautiful to be able to go to the beach and make the beach your office for the day.
What part of Puerto Rico?
Isabella.
Isabella. Okay.
Yeah. So 5 minutes from the beach.
Nice.
And I got roosters right next door from me that I've grown to not hear anymore.
Right.
I think anyone who lives in a campo in Puerto Rico or moves to the campo in Puerto Rico truly isn't Puerto Rican to the fullest until you don't hear the roosters.
Right. And isn't there a street named after Rocksteady, Puerto Rico?
Yeah, Calle Rocksteady Crew.
Really? And
yeah.
Is that the street you live on, is it?
Yes.
It is. Nice. That's amazing. I mean, that's like a dream come true right there.
Yeah. And I was fortunate that one of my friends was the one who developed that community of homes.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to honor New Yorkers.
Yeah.
It was actually supposed to be Calle Crazy Legs.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't, I've already said that I've done all these things with people by my side. So, in a situation like that, I know I've led the way, but I didn't do it alone. So there were 2 times streets were named after us, or we've got a street sign, and I told them, don't do Crazy Legs, just do Rocksteady Crew, because I didn't do it alone.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to the point, like, no one does it alone in any way, because you don't even build up your name if you don't have competition. The competition helps you even when they're losing.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Man, we get philosophical here. I like that. What advice would you give high school you?
It's very empowering to feel that you know it all, and you probably have a lot of fresh new knowledge, but the wisdom you're going to have later on to apply to that knowledge is when your mind really starts working.
Okay. Yeah. So what you would say that verbatim to your high school self?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was living the moment all the time,
Yeah.
living for the moment.
I mean, what's funny is like it's gonna be balanced, but a lot of people aren't even in the moment these days. So it's like being in the moment, being present, but finding the balance to also make sure you take care of your future. But these days, I feel like
The moment is late now.
Yeah, yeah.
The moment is now after because
Yeah.
of social media.
Exactly. It's true. I asked some people like if you had your own podcast, what would it be about? But you should have a podcast. You have so many stories. You're a pioneer of hip hop culture. Walking down the block or a hip hop event, I'm sure the older heads know exactly who you are, but the young heads should know as well because of everything you contributed.
So the funny thing is that the first thing that popped into my mind, and this is without me even trying to like figure out what makes sense, first thing that popped into mind is boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love boxing. I don't mind getting punched in the face or anything like that, which is usually how people figure out whether they really like boxing or not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough workout. And you know, basketball is a game. All these sports are a game, but boxing's not a game. Like,
No.
You don't play, you fight.
No.
And it's a great workout.
And when you get bruised ribs,
Yeah.
let's see how you're feeling after that.
I was boxing as a workout at Chelsea Piers.
Were you sparring?
I was sparring too.
All right.
And I took a couple of hits and it was all right, but it was at one time where I got hit really hard. My neck turned this way and I felt the crack. And I just sparred a few more times after that, but I thought to myself, my health insurance then was sucked. So like, I'm gonna stop doing the sparring thing just because I don't want to land myself in a place where I can't work, have bills. So yeah.
I would love to spar right now, but and I'm not out here trying to say like I'm the illest boxer in the world or anything, but I'm definitely better than the average dude in the street.
Yeah.
But
it's funny. It's funny. Not to cut you off, sorry, but like I've seen dancers box, and there's a lot of similarities in the movements, the choreography. So whenever my Charlotte is a friend that we interviewed. She's a classically trained ballerina, but she does all kinds of dance. Mm-hmm. She does shelter parties, all that stuff. But when she boxes, man, she looks like she's got all the movements down the head. Like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, you could play with some steps. My coach Nell, he would always tell me, yo, you got to use those dance steps, man. Yeah. You can do things that are different. You understand how to move your feet. Yeah. You mix that in with the traditional movement of boxing, and it could throw people off.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, look at Muhammad Ali used to do that footwork just to get people stirred in the
legs. Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so we're in the North Face showroom.
Yeah.
And, as you can see, they're saying is never stop exploring. So I want to ask you, how do you incorporate exploration in your life, and how do you continue to further your love for exploration?
I would, it's funny, during the pandemic, we would go for walks, and where we live, we realized, okay, well, can't go to the gym, so we really have to like use the staircases in the building and go up and down 10 flights, and then work out at home, go for long walks. But we realized, oh shit, like, let's walk over here. Oh my God, I didn't know that was here.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes a walk in your own neighborhood to where you never felt like you wanted to walk to is exploring in itself. But I also I'm a traveler, man. I like going to places like Greece. I like taking in the culture, food. I love art. Mm-hmm. Those are the kinds of things that I really appreciate. And I'm 58, so it's a little different. I'm cool with like a group of friends just we go to Puerto Rico, go hang out, good conversation, good cocktails, and perfect weather, talking shit in the backyard, looking up at the stars, and stars in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Beautiful there.
Not so much in the metropolitan area, but in Isabela, you could just I'll lay out in the backyard and play some jazz music, be completely content, look at shooting stars, because we always get that view. And that to me is an amazing time. Or explore different things in Puerto Rico. There's so many
We
things
were
to
in
explore
UK.
in Puerto Rico.
UK was a beautiful place.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in the movie Avatar. It was insane.
There's a waterfall about 12 miles from my house on the west side. It's another one,
Yeah, there's some
you gotta
beautiful
check it
places, for sure. I mean, we had the luck of having Manolo Lopez as our guide. We got to see like parts of Puerto Rico that like a tourist would never see.
Right.
Great restaurants, chefs. It was an experience, and I'm very fortunate to have had him, a local, show us his island. You know, it was beautiful. I love this question. This is, what is your most embarrassing moment?
Oh shit, man. Oh, my first battle.
Really? Why? What happened?
My first battle, I was first of all, I was a scrub. I was part of the Bronx Boys, and Bronx Boys was teaming up with Rockwell Association to battle against Crazy Commanders,
I love these
Star
names.
Child LaRock, and the Disco Kings.
I love these names.
Yeah.
Great names.
And so I had practice all week and get to the battle. And back then, you know, the leader of the crew, whoever was running the battle, called the shots. Who went out? We all knew who we were going to go after. You didn't jump out randomly.
Okay.
No, it was orchestrated.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and for the sake of manipulation, because the idea of me being there, and I'm not probably like the worst one there, I'd be the first one thrown out.
Right.
Because I'm a scrub. I was what was considered bait.
Right.
You know? Or if I had a move that wasn't fully developed yet and someone else on the other side had that move better, they'd make me throw it out earlier, or I'd make someone else throw their move out earlier, because we knew, okay, that's their strength over there. Let's see if we can get the hype over with at the beginning of the battle and force that person to come out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was thrown out, and next thing you know, the routine that I planned, choreographed, goes completely off. And I mess it up. The freeze that I try to do was nowhere near what I had intended. And I was literally on my knees on the floor. I put my hands over my face in embarrassment. Yeah. And mind you, I was like 11 years old.
Right. Oh.
You know, but you know, I'll never forget that.
And that, I guess it might have played a role in inspiring you to get better, and you would have never been where you're at unless you took that L.
I'm sure I have a whole bunch of embarrassing moments, but
everyone does.
You know, that's the first one that came to mind.
That's a great one. I like that you brought your first battle up. You know, I mean, being viewed as this, you know, pioneer of breakdancing and so on. The fact that your most embarrassing moment is your first one.
Well, my first crew battle.
First crew battle.
Yeah.
But you didn't stop. You know?
No, hell no.
Exactly.
The whole idea was, back then you were, you know, number one, it was kids who were like maybe 2 years older than you. You looked at them like they were adults because they were more advanced than you. And the way they told you how your shit was trash was hardcore. Yeah. Like the one thing I'll never forget is like I showed a friend, one of the guys I looked up to, a move. And I was like, yo, check this out. I do the move. He's like, yo, man, that shit is hurt. You need to put a Band-Aid over it. I was like, damn.
That's such an 80s this is like
no, this is 70s though.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah.
For me, I recognize the 80s, yeah.
So, but because we grew up in a really harsh environment, that that kind of criticism is taken like, all right, cool. We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
Came back next week. Better.
Right.
Better. And you know, these are dudes who are stick-up kids too. They're like some of the dopest b-boys, but they're all stick-up kids, and they're also teaching you to be a stick-up kid as well, while they're teaching, you know, not teaching me how to dance, because I pretty much learned how to dance by myself. But what's amazing is that kind of criticism today would not fly.
No.
And it's sad because people are so sensitive and soft right now. It's kind of
I
pathetic.
believe there should be a balance, right? It shouldn't be super tough, but it also shouldn't be so sensitive. I think we need to find a balance, and it's I don't know.
And
I don't
think
have the
about,
answer.
remember that, and think about, we used to look forward to watching the television series Scared Straight. You remember that?
Yeah, oh my god, that was a great show. I mean, that
Yeah.
would never fly now because the stuff these prisoners were saying to these kids, man. But they might have scared them straight, though. You know, they might have gotten them out of trouble.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. Well, listen, we have last segment of this interview is 5 rapid fire questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. And you can answer the first thing that comes to mind. What's your favorite city other than New York City?
Tokyo.
Oh, I love Tokyo. They really embrace the intricacies of hip hop. Like they take it to the next level, in my opinion. Anything, it's amazing. Great answer.
Yeah.
You know, if you could do any other profession, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Sing.
Sing, really?
Yeah.
Can you sing?
I have a horrible voice. I can sing in front of people who don't know how to sing more than me.
Right. Karaoke. What's your vice?
My vice? Ooh, man. Going down the rabbit hole of politics. Yeah.
Well, you go deep down, like you get.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I like to hear the no bullshit facts of what's going on. Whether it's left or right, I really don't care.
Right.
If it's the truth, it's the truth. It's not, it's not. I like a lot of legal shit. I will watch legal shit all day.
Right.
So that takes up some of my time, and when I got work to do.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. Oh, so that's legit advice. Yeah. You get stuck in it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I get to make my own opinion, and when you hear the legal perspective or listen to lawyers talk about what's happening in court cases with politics and all these things, and understanding that, it gives you, because I think a lawyer wants to come across as having more credibility when they're doing a show, any kind of show.
Yeah.
And I just like knowing the facts.
Okay.
My girl be like, "You're still watching that? Is that all you watch?"
Yeah, it's informative, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's your greatest fear?
Oh, man. Wow. I would say the opposite of both sides of success and failure.
The opposite? What do you mean?
Meaning, scared to fail, and sometimes success can be scary too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think being able to have the comfort of success without the notoriety is probably more peaceful.
So success with no notoriety is more peaceful, you're saying?
Yeah. I would love to fall back into obscurity.
Right. I mean, you've come from the public eye. Obviously, there's always the chance of scrutiny and so on. So
it goes with the territory.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you can't handle that, just forget it.
Even reading Facebook comments on our advertising for our Outsiders Adventures.
Yeah.
Man, some of these people are just so nasty.
Yeah.
And we're advertising the outdoors, and we're like, I bet you they're not doing this. They're not practicing leave no trace. But let's see if they have a permit. Let's see if I'm like, guys, you like the outdoors? We're trying to bring people outdoors. What's your problem? And I've learned not to feed into it.
I was accused of raising money to help Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria and taking that money to buy a house in Puerto Rico. I bought my house 7 years before that hurricane.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I owe anyone an excuse or an explanation off of like some random person who wants to just make something up because they don't like me.
And I've realized to choose when I respond. Sometimes some of these things there's no point in responding. What are you gonna argue?
Not at all. It gets worse.
And the only time but there are some times when you explain yourself, and I just choose my judgment. Whatever feels like I follow that.
I'd rather somebody come up to me like, "Yo, what's up with this?"
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
cool. No problem.
Which they don't do
There's the
anymore
deal.
because you're online.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Last question. I don't know if you had a chance to do this, but what's your favorite food? Did you bring some?
Oh, it's always gonna be Puerto Rican food, man.
Tell us.
I
What is
mean, you know, you
Give me
you
your
put
Puerto
pollo
Rican
guisado, arroz
Awesome.
con pollo. I mean, I like white rice, and some beans and ensalada de aguacate, and I'm good.
Yeah.
But for breakfast, one of my favorite breakfasts is rice with eggs, fried eggs on top, and maduro.
Oof, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tres golpes is pretty good. That's like mashed plantains, salami. That's super heavy though, but you have. I mean, that's a staple for so many cultures. I know for
Yeah.
even if you take the plantains out, Persian culture. I love having eggs. We eat a lot of rice.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean that's comfort food. Like,
Yeah, and I think the thing with Latinos is that, and I don't know about Persians, but I we have our rice isn't dry when it's made because I believe there's like a certain amount of oil that's used in it, and it makes it more tasty.
yeah, I agree. We're talking about that. I live in Jersey City, not too far from Union City, where is the largest population of Cubans outside of Miami. It's a Cuban spot near my house. I always get the white rice. The white rice
Yeah.
is so flavorful too.
Yep.
And I can literally just eat that alone with plantains or beans. I don't even need the meat sometimes. It's so good.
I went not too long ago. I forgot what I had. We had some chicken in the house, some like chicken stew, and I was like, oh, I'm going to the Dominican spot to buy a little container of rice.
Yeah.
I gotta have this with some rice.
I agree. I think for me, rice. One, I don't do gluten anymore because of some healthy reasons. But like, so when it comes to like filling up, and I want something, rice is my go-to.
Yeah,
it's so good. My Puerto Rican food, I somewhat grew up on too. Some of my best friends growing up.
Well,
in Puerto
you live
Rican.
out here. How could you not?
Exactly.
It's like, I know what Persians are. You tell somebody, oh, he's Persian. They may, what's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Iran?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that too. I remember sitting over, like, going to my friend Mark Tolliver, and his mom she's Puerto Rican, and his mom made amazing wings with rice, beans, plantains. I used to just go hang out with him just late enough to where it was dinner time. She'd be like, "Oh, we should stay." I'm like, "Okay." It was so good.
Yeah,
it was so good.
yeah.
But
I feel like maybe first of all, people always thought, like, when I go to Europe, a lot of people think I'm Persian.
Yeah, well,
especially if I let this grow.
Yeah. Because we whatever the minority is, and wherever like in France, I think I'm Algerian. In different places, whatever minority I look like,
that
I think
too,
I'm that.
Algerian
so like
too.
In Germany, they might think I'm Turkish or whatever. So I don't mind because you know what? It means I'm ambiguous. I go to I remember I was visiting a friend of mine in the hood in Stockholm, and the hood there is Middle Eastern and African.
Yeah.
So I walk up, I open the door for these two older Middle Eastern women. They said, "Assalamu alaikum." I look behind me, like, "Oh, she's talking to me." I said, "Oh, alaikum assalam." Cool, but because here no one would say that to me in the hood. Like it was cool being able to blend in any culture because you look like you could be anything. It's like a superpower.
I think Persians are like the Puerto Ricans of the Middle East.
Could have very well be, man. Yeah, it's interesting seeing the different cultures. How listen, Puerto Rican, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, a lot of it kind of looks similar. We have similar features. So Puerto Ricans could be like Persians because they have blonde hair, blue eyes. Could have dark features. Could be anything. So
here's something interesting. So several years ago, I was with a friend in France. He is Algerian, and he told me that people in France, like the Moroccan, Algerian, Turkish community, they got into breaking because they thought when they saw Flashdance that we were of those backgrounds. They had no idea, so they were trying to emulate what they believed to be them.
Very true. It's funny because whether it be in France, I was born in Paris. My mom is French. She's half French. And then I have Persian cousins that are in Stockholm and all these. But the hood is always very similar. There's a movie called La Haine. La Haine is this movie of Vincent Cassel, and like it just is a perfect depiction of the European hood. You know, there's differences between the American hood and the European hood, but mostly it's cultural because the hood here is gonna be Black and Latino, and the hood there is African and Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
But there's always similarities. Always.
Yeah.
So they see what reminds them of them. They want to be part
When
of
we
that.
first started touring, and like I said, we had no appreciation for what was going on and the opportunities that we had, especially culturally, cultural exchange. We were like, yo, take us to the hood.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're going to take you sightseeing. Nah, man, take us to the hood. Yeah. That's all we wanted to do, go to the hood.
Yeah. I mean, there's commonalities there, right?
Yeah. Somebody asked me in the 90s when we started coming out again, they said, what would you do? What are you going to do differently now? And I was like, I'm going to stop and look. You know, it was because I had missed too much on the road in the 80s. We didn't care. We just wanted to party, meet girls, and we had no discipline, fucking up hotel rooms and all kinds of
It comes
shit.
with age and wisdom and experience. You can't be mad at yourself for doing that.
I'm not.
Everybody's
We invested into the leisure time of our youth.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's a great way to put it. But you lived that, and then you had perspective to sit back and be like, okay, well, this is not the way how I want to continue my travel. So at least you've had the full experience. You know?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I feel like you know me better now.
I do. And on that note, I appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
I've always admired you from before I met you. You're a pioneer. I'm a big fan, and I know we'll collaborate one day on a project.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're gonna. We'll talk about that after. But we gotta give a shout out to Natalie, aka Telihana.
Telihana, yes.
Yes.
She's who we do our Sardinia trip with every year. It's our third year in a row, and.
When is that? Because I think I need
June
to go.
June 1st to June 8th.
Let me see if I can get out there. I don't know. Let me see.
That's right.
That would be amazing.
So many connections there. But again, thank you very much.
Thank you, bro.
Guys. Tune in. Follow him. What's your...
Crazy Legs BX on X and everything else.
Instagram.
and Instagram and TikTok, all that.
Yep. Perfect. Stay tuned for that documentary coming out, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Yes, absolutely.
And just follow. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
Peace.